Another very popular type of selector we have in CSS is called a pseudo-class selector. A pseudo-class is a selector. What it does, it refers to a special state of that element. It's based on the function of the element, the structure of the element, or the relationship of the element to another element or elements. It uses the colon in its syntax. You should be familiar with the anchor pseudo-class selectors. If we were to apply a style to the A element, as you see here, it would apply to all instances of the A except the hover. We can break that down because a hyperlink exists in several different states. A visited, a unvisited, a hover, and a selected state. So by using a::link, a::visited, a::hover, a::focus, a::active, we can style those different states of the A element. We have what are called structural pseudo-classes. They refer to the relationship of the element in the layout, usually in the parent-child layout. Most commonly, we have the first child, the last child, the nth child. We also can identify a pseudo-class by the type of element, the first of type, the last of type, and the nth of type. Here's an example of the first child structural pseudo-class. And there is also a last child, which functions the same way. So if we look at our selector code, p::first-child, I would like to point out that there is no space to the right or left of that colon. So the structural pseudo-class has to be connected to an element. When I test my selectors, I generally will apply a color to them so that I can see that I have actually made that match. If you look to the left in the HTML code, you see we have several paragraphs. However, only one is the first in its area. So you can see that that paragraph will be red. Now, if I were to use the first child structural pseudo-class without connecting it to an element, it will match any first child anywhere. So here we see the paragraph is the first child, the H2 is the first child in section, the LI is the first child in UL. And you can see that those elements would be red. We also have the first of type. So here we have LI::first of type, which refers to the first LI. LIs are only going to be found inside a list. In our code here, we can see that it is red. The first of type is very similar to the first child. The first of type will return more matches than the first of child. And that is because the first child is always the first of its type. However, the first of its type is not necessarily always the first child. Let's take a look at this example, p::first of type. In our section, the second child is the P. However, it is the first of its type. That is what I was talking about. Sometimes the first of type will be the first child. Many times it will not. However, the first child will always be the first of type. So here we have, again, the first of type, and we're looking at the paragraph. So we have two matches because in the parent-child relation, they are the first of its type. If we were to use first of type without connecting it to an element, the whole page in this situation turns red because every element is the first of its type, and the parent being the first of its type, if that is red, the children are going to inherit everything, so everything would be red. We also have the nth of type. That is followed by some parentheses, and it takes a value, and that is an index position. So we can return a specific number, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, etc. So in this situation, we are selecting nth of type 2, and you can see here that indeed it is red. We also have these very nice even odd keywords that can be used with the nth of type, meaning we can target every other one depending on where we want to start. So here we have nth of type even, and we see the second and the fourth are indeed red. This is very nice for creating every other color rows in your tables. We also have the nth child, which takes an index position, first, second, third, etc. So here we see that the second li is styled to be red. We have some variations on the nth of type. We have the ability to select based on a cycle. So here we see the structural pseudo-class nth of type in parentheses 3n. That is saying every third one. So rather than odd or even, we can choose the third. And you can see that we have li number 3 and number 6 being styled. We can do this with the nth child. We can have a cycle set for the nth child. Because I used the li example, the third and the sixth are styled red. We also can indicate a starting index for the cycle. So if we wanted to start at a certain position and start the cycle from then, this is how you would do it, adding the index position after the 3n plus 2. And you can also do that with the nth child. You can specify a starting index from where you want the cycle to start, and it will start at that point. We also have what are called pseudo-element selectors. They act like elements, but in reality they're not. Notice they are preceded by the double colon. Years ago, they were preceded by a single colon, and that will still work. And you may see that in people's code in web pages, or even in older textbooks. So I'm just pointing that out, that it was changed to the double colon for the pseudo-elements. Pseudo-selectors and structural pseudo-classes are single colons. These two elements allow us to apply a style to the first letter and also the first line. And here I am using a paragraph. You can only apply text and font styles to these elements. You can't apply other styles to them. We also have the before and after pseudo-elements. They're used a lot in the industry. They're used for adding an element after float in order to clear that element. And there are some other very nice purpose for their use. The syntax is that you need to use the content property. So you are going to add something before or after. The content property sets the value of what you are going to add. And you can actually style that also. So if you look at the example here, we're putting these two little brackets in front of the H2, and we are doing that with pure CSS. HTML is for content. If you want to put some decorative things on your web page, that's not content. That's a visual effect that people with eyes can see. It makes no sense to screen readers. All of the presentation is done with CSS. So you would use before and after for putting things on the page that is purely for some type of effect, and you don't want it to interfere with content so that the screen readers don't have to try to interpret it for accessibility.